Security issue is everybody's issue, reports any suspicious character to the security agencies. Do not take the law into your hands. Here today, because of the political development in Egypt, we're going to start the news bulletin from the foreign scene. After 4 days of mass protests by pro- and anti-Morsi supporters, the Egyptian armed forces have finally overthrew the first democratically elected government of that country. Reports reaching Embassy TV News indicate that the president of Egypt's Supreme Constitution Court, Adli Mansour, is to act as interim head of state. According to the report, the new head of state will be assisted by an interim council until new presidential and parliamentary elections are held. The military in Egypt had earlier issued a 24-hour deadline which expired Wednesday. In a television broadcast, the country's military chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, announced the suspension of the country's constitution and a roadmap for a return to democratic rule. You are with me live in the studio is a guest, Dr. Okoli Chukuma of Federal University Lafayette, to discuss the latest political crisis in Syria. Doctor, you are welcome to MBS TV News Studio.
Welcome, my friend. Welcome, viewers.
Only yesterday that President Mohamed Morsi was overthrown and Adli Mansour was also sworn in as the interim leader before the election is conducted. Doctor, what do you think is the political implication of this development?
Well, thank you very much. Talking about the political implications of the event that occurred yesterday in Egypt, I wish to start by pointing out that what really happened in Egypt yesterday, even though it was historically significant, was long anticipated. It wasn't surprising that it came in the manner it came. Remember, in the immediate build-up to the incident, there was this ultimatum by the military.
By the military, yes.
Okay. Incidentally, the ultimatum lapsed before the actual event. Yeah. So what we're trying to say in this instance, it wasn't that surprising that it occurred. Okay. We actually expected it to happen the way it did.
Okay.
Now, I'm talking about the strategic implications. Well, it has a lot of implications, including positive and negative ones.
Okay.
Okay. I should think that the best of the implications, okay, revolves around what I may term the contradictions of revolution.
Okay. If
you look at the history of the so-called Arab Spring,
yes,
the scenario in Egypt has been so dramatic. Looking at the peculiar character of the revolution in Egypt, yes, its peculiar trends and dynamics, you notice some discernible peculiarities.
Yes.
Now, the revolution was designed to be a populist movement. It was designed, in essence, to actually take care of popular aspirations.
Okay.
Okay, it's just like saying the people were done with the years, the untoward years of dictatorship.
Okay.
And suddenly they started agitating for a radical change
that will usher,
yes, okay, a certain radical awakening, consciousness on the part of the masses. So they started agitating for a radical change that was actually designed to bring about a new socio-political order.
Okay.
Okay? And so the revolution actually started, it began, but in the process of its becoming, it was hijacked by some reactionary, conservative element.
Okay.
Okay? They now hijacked the process, started manipulating the process to suit their vested interest, started manipulating the process, and even negotiating the outcome. And so I could rightly point out that the revolution, though it started based on the impetus okay, the popular aspiration of the people, it got derailed along the line when it was actually hijacked, the process by the conservative element. And so it turned out arrested in development. Now, the event of yesterday significantly, this is my reckoning, has opened up a new vista of opportunities whereby the people will now come back to their original mandate. They are the biggest stakeholders in the process. Power belongs to the people. So the opportunity is that they could come back and now take charge of the opportunity to now begin to renegotiate.
All right, let me just cut you there. But what do you think is the future of democracy in Egypt?
Well, despite what has happened, I still believe, most frankly, that the future of democracy in Egypt and also elsewhere in Africa is bright, is promising, despite the backlash. I believe that if you look at what happened quite critically, you notice at once that in it lies immense prospect of a radical democratic transformation, even in Egypt.
All right. In one or two sentences, Doctor, before you leave our studio, what do you think? Is there any external connection in the present crisis in Egypt?
Sure. I cannot actually exaggerate that. Because we are living in an era of what we call globalization. One of the implications of this is that you don't have events that are actually endlessly isolated from the wider world. Given this case, I think typically it's a case of internal revolt. Surely I think it has some external dimensions, even if you look at how it started, the media prompting, and it was actually part of the initial predisposing factors that precipitated.
Thank you, Dr. Okoli Chukwuma of Federal University, Lafayette. Thank you so much for being with us in the studio to discuss on the political development of Egypt. Thank you so
very much. God bless you.
Now we continue with the news. Minister of Special Duties on Intergovernmental Affairs, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, AZN, says the security situation in the north must be seen as problems that affect the entire country. The minister, who doubles as the chairman, Presidential Committee on Dialogue and Peaceful Resolution of Security, stated these when he led members of the committee on a courtesy call on Governor Umaru Danko Makura Thursday. The visit was on the heels of the committee's nationwide tour of interaction with stakeholders on issues of peace. Government House correspondent Muhammad Shafa reports.
The Minister of Special Duties, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, SAN, explained that the committee was set up by President Goodluck Jonathan to look into the security problems in the north and come up with viable resolutions. According to him, the committee's terms of reference includes to look into issues that culminated into insecurity, check the proliferation of light weapons, and to find out ways in which government can support those who lost their belongings as a result of such insecurities, among others.
A lot of small arms and other illegal weapons that are in the hands of unauthorized private persons, which should not be the case. It's part of our terms of reference, Your Excellency, sir, to define a workable framework of resolving all crises, whether arising out of issue of insecurity, whether arising out of issues of religious tolerance or intolerance, whether arising out of political activities, whether arising from ethno or other culture.
Confirming the status of Nasarawa State as a peaceful state, the minister regretted the Ombase incident that befell the state, stressing that such an issue must not be taken for granted. He commended Governor Al-Makura for providing a conducive atmosphere for all and sundry to carry out their legitimate activities. Corresponding Governor Umaru Tanko Almakura lauded President Goodluck Jonathan for setting up the committee as a means of bringing an end to the security problems that bedeviled the northern parts of the country in recent times, just as he commended the composition of the time-tested members of the committee, noting the security of lives and property of the people as one of the priorities of his administration. Governor Umaru Tanko Almakura explained that his administration involves measures which included community-based approach to conflict resolution and the use of traditional rulers to drive home the message of peace.
We have adopted a method that we felt was more effective than merely using force. You see, when the security situation is left to be determined by use of force, then something must have gone really, really wrong. And that's what we have been trying to avoid since we came. This government has as its models for providing solutions to security problems as community-based conflict resolution initiative.
Even though the committee did not end its visit without commiserating with the government and people of Nasarawa State over the Alaikyo incident, the pointer of its visit is to ensure peaceful coexistence among all and sundry. For NBS News, Mohammed Shafa reporting.
The Northern Governors Forum has donated 100 million naira to the families of the officers killed at the ill-fated Laikyo operations. This was made known when a delegation of the forum visited Governor Almakura Thursday. Once again, Government House correspondent Mohammed Shafa has the details.
Making the pronouncement of the donation of the 100 million naira, the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and chief servant of Niger State, Muazu Babangida Aliyu, commended Governor Almakura for setting up a judicial commission of inquiry into the Laikyo killings, explaining that the rationale behind their visit was to commiserate with the government and people of Nasarawa State over the unfortunate incident that befell the state. Governor Babangida Aliyu encouraged Governor Almakura to continue with the good work he is doing for the people of Nasarawa State. Governor Babangida Aliyu also lauded Governor Almakura for his action on the proscription of all militant groups in the state, saying it is a step in the right direction.
Unique in the sense that those that have the authority to help good governance were the ones who were attacked. In many countries, nobody kills an authority, particularly the police, and goes scot-free. Nobody. Because the moment you allow that to happen, then it means you are questioning the whole foundation of governance. So we were very glad when he constituted and inaugurated the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to look into all the issues. And we're happy that he's a proactive governor like many of us. We must be proactive enough, sir. You may be younger, you may be whatever, but out of the millions of Nasarawa citizens, he picked you out.
Appreciating the concern of his northern counterparts, Governor Almakura assured that their donation will be used for the specified purpose.
For the people concerned with the problem. And that is an amount that every person will hail and appreciate. So let me, on behalf of the victims, the families, and the people of Nasarawa State, thank you. Thank all the governors of the Northern Governors Forum and the entire citizens of the northern part of this country, because I know this gesture is shown on their behalf and with their mandate. Thank you very much, sir.
Meantime, the governors, who included Muazu Babangida Aliyu of Niger State, Sule Lamido Mokhtar Ramalan Yero of Kaduna State, and the Deputy Governor of Katsina State, also visited the Emir of Lafia in his palace. For NBS News, Mohammed Shafa.
For anything you do, there is certainly a reward for it. This explains why a police officer from Nasarawa State who foiled an armed robbery attack in Ebonyi State was Thursday rewarded. It was the presentation of a house built by the Ebonyi State government in a show of appreciation to the gallant officer. Government House correspondent Muhammad Shafa still on the line with the report.
Presenting the keys of the 3-bedroom bungalow to the police corporal, the governor of Ebonyi State, Chief Martins Elechi, explained that the gesture was his modest contribution to the act of gallantry exhibited by the police corporal.
Encourage people who do good things by appreciating them. In the same way we sanction those who do bad things, and we try to explain the difference. So we are encouraging the young man, and by so doing, we allow him know that anything he does will be rewarded, if not immediately, surely sometime later.
Encouraging, this is a morale booster, and as the host governor, I know I have a good ambassador from my state, and I'm calling us in the South State to emulate the gallantry, the selflessness of the mission.
Apart from that, the Ebonyi State governor also presented 1,000 bags of rice to widows of security operatives that were killed at Alaikyo. Earlier, Governor Umar Ochonkwo Almakura, who commended his counterpart of Ebonyi State for the philanthropic gesture, said it will go a long way in supporting the widows. He also described the gesture of building a befitting bungalow for the police officer that foiled the armed robbery attack at Ebonyi State in 2009 as a unique one, thus urging other security operatives to emulate the gallantry of the police corporal. It has been Mohammed Shafa, NBS News.
Nasarawa State government has reiterated its commitment towards workers' welfare. State Governor Umaru Tanko Amakura made government's position known while declaring open and interactive session for state top civil servant held at Ibrahim Abacha Youth Center Wednesday. Deputy Governor Office correspondent Sebastian Sai reports.
Represented by the state Deputy Governor Damishi Lukabaro, Governor Almakura noted that apart from training of staff and regular payment of salaries and allowances, adequate step has been taken to address other pending issues.
I wish to reiterate the readiness of this administration to the implementation of the promotion and annual increments of deserving workers and other incentives essential to the productivity of the public service. Accordingly, the head of civil service is hereby directed to appraise the situation and make appropriate recommendation for immediate implementation by government.
The governor lauded the theme for this year's event, which is Nigerian Public Service in an Age of Open Government, giving voice to the people, describing it as timely considering the policy thrust of the present administration in the state, centered on transparency, accountability, due process and prudence in management of public resources. In an address of welcome, State Head of Service Dr. Dominic Bako, who gave an overview of the Civil Service Week, said it began with prayers in mosques and churches, as well as interactive sessions amongst other activities. The Head of Service said climax of activities marking the Civil Service Week is the interactive session held with senior civil servants who are expected to take stock of the overall performance of civil servants in the state and also to fashion out new ways of repositioning the service for positive results. Sebastian Say, NBS News.
Authorities of Doma Local Government Council have dissolved its task force on revenue generation. The Director of Personnel Management of the Council, Alhaji Rayano Isa, announced the dissolution after a crucial meeting with management staff in his office recently. A statement signed by the Council's Information Officer, Usman Muhammad Musa, caught the DPM as saying that the development was in a bid to improve ways of collecting revenue for the Council. You're watching NBS TV News. Highlight of our top stories so far. As security tops discussions between Minister and Governor Umaru Tanko Amakura, Northern governors have donated 100 million naira to families of slain security operatives. Nasarawa State government has interacted with civil servant. Workers' welfare takes center stage. Up ahead, correspondent takes a look at ongoing strikes in tertiary institutions in the country. Stay with us. Welcome back. Since the advent of democracy in Nigeria over a decade ago, the quest for good governance, effective service delivery and workers' welfare have remained the focus of government and labor organizations. However, one major factor that is putting a setback to the phenomenon is constant industrial action by labor organizations, especially educational institutions in the country. In this special report, correspondent Olaji Moki Wirade takes a look at the effects of strike to the development of the country.
For some time now, regular industrial actions have continued to be a nightmare among lecturers and students, as well as a disturbing factor to government at all levels. Report has it that in the past